What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved comedians sits down for what should be a routine promotional interview, only to find himself under attack from a host who seems determined to tear him down? Today we're diving into an absolutely explosive exchange that had everyone talking, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because you're not going to believe what unfolds. The atmosphere in the View studio was already charged that morning. Adam Sandler had come on to promote his latest dramatic role, a departure from his typical comedy work that had been earning critical acclaim. He settled into his chair with his characteristic easy smile, expecting the usual promotional banter. But Joy Behar had other plans. "So, Adam," Joy began, her voice carrying an edge that immediately caught the attention of everyone in the studio, "I have to ask about this sudden pivot to serious acting. Are you finally admitting that your comedy career has run its course?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Sandler's smile faltered for just a moment before he recovered. "Well, Joy, I wouldn't say it's sudden. I've been doing dramatic work for years now, and I love exploring different aspects of storytelling. But let's be honest," Joy interrupted, leaning forward with a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Your last few comedies were absolutely panned by critics. Box office disasters. Are you just trying to salvage what's left of your reputation?" The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Whoopi Goldberg shot Joy a warning look, but Joy was just getting started. Sandler maintained his composure, though viewers could see his jaw tighten slightly. "I think my fans would disagree with that assessment," Sandler replied carefully. "My movies connect with people, and that's what matters to me. Not everyone has to like everything I do." "Connect with people?" Joy scoffed, her voice rising. "You mean connect with 12-year-old boys who think fart jokes are the height of comedy? When was the last time you made something actually intelligent, Adam?" The studio audience began to murmur uncomfortably. This wasn't the usual playful ribbing that guests expected on talk shows. This felt personal, targeted, almost cruel. Sandler's response was measured but firm. "Joy, I'm not sure why you're being so hostile here. I came on your show to talk about my new film, which deals with some pretty serious themes about family and loss. I thought we could have a conversation about that." "Oh, we can have a conversation," Joy shot back, "but let's have an honest one. Your so-called dramatic performances are just you doing your regular shtick, but with fewer laughs. You're not fooling anyone into thinking you're some kind of serious actor." The tension in the room was palpable now. Sandler's publicist, sitting off camera, looked like she wanted to intervene, but Sandler held up a subtle hand to stop her. "You know what, Joy," Sandler said, his voice still controlled but with a new hardness to it. "I've been in this business for 30 years. I've made movies that have brought joy to millions of people. I've worked with some of the most talented actors and directors in Hollywood. If you want to sit here and tear me down for whatever personal reasons you have, that's your choice. But I'm not going to sit here and let you disrespect my career or my fans." Joy laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Personal reasons? This isn't personal, Adam. This is about calling out mediocrity when I see it. You've been coasting on the same juvenile humor for decades, making millions while real artists struggle to get their work seen." "Real artists?" Sandler's eyebrows shot up. "So comedy isn't real art now? Entertainment isn't valuable? The movies I make employ hundreds of people. They give families something to laugh about together. They help people forget their troubles for a couple of hours. If that's not valuable, then I don't know what island." The other hosts tried to jump in and redirect the conversation, but Joy was relentless. "Please spare me the noble speech about helping families. You're making schlock and you know it. When was the last time you challenged yourself as a performer? When was the last time you took a real risk?" Sandler's composure was beginning to crack. His hands gripped the arms of his chair, and his voice took on an intensity that surprised everyone watching. "You want to talk about taking risks, Joy? Let me tell you about risks. Every time I step in front of a camera, I'm risking failure. Every time I put myself out there for people to judge, that's a risk. And you know what the biggest risk is? Sitting across from someone who's supposed to be a professional interviewer, and instead getting ambushed by someone who clearly has some kind of personal vendetta." The studio fell silent except for the sound of cameras continuing to roll. Joy's smile had turned cold and calculating. "A vendetta?" she said slowly. Or maybe just someone who's not afraid to tell the truth about Hollywood's golden boy who never grew up. That was the moment everything changed. Sandler leaned forward in his chair, his eyes locked on Joy's, and when he spoke, his voice carried a quiet fury that made everyone in the studio hold their breath. "You know what, Joy?" Sandler said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I've been sitting here trying to be respectful, trying to be professional. But you clearly came into this with an agenda. So let me ask you something. What exactly have you contributed to entertainment? What joy have you brought to people's lives?" Joy's face flushed red. "Excuse me? I've been a professional broadcaster for decades. I've won awards, I've broken stories, I've held politicians accountable. And yet, here you are," Sandler continued, his voice gaining strength, "using your platform to tear down someone who's done nothing but try to make people laugh. You want to talk about taking the easy road? How about sitting behind a desk every day throwing stones at people who actually put themselves out there creatively?" The other hosts looked like deer in headlights. Sonny Hostin tried to interject. "Maybe we should take a quick break and come back to discuss the new movie." But Sandler wasn't having it. "No, let's finish this conversation. Joy started it, so let's see it through. You want to know about challenging myself? I'll tell you what's challenging. Trying to maintain dignity while someone who's supposed to be interviewing you instead chooses to use their time attacking your life's work." Joy slammed her hand on the table. "Your life's work? Making the same movie over and over again with your buddies while laughing all the way to the bank? That's not art, that's a scam." The audience gasped audibly. This had gone far beyond uncomfortable television into something genuinely shocking. Sandler stood up from his chair, towering over the desk. "A scam?" His voice was incredulous. "Lady, I've never promised anyone anything other than entertainment. People pay to see my movies because they want to laugh, they want to escape, they want to feel good for 2 hours, and you know what? They get exactly what they pay for. Can you say the same about this show? Can you say people tune in expecting to watch someone get ambushed and humiliated?" Joy shot up from her chair as well, matching his energy. "People tune in expecting honesty. They expect someone to ask the tough questions instead of just lobbing softballs at celebrities who think they're untouchable." "Tough questions?" Sandler laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think this is journalism? You think what you're doing right now is serving the public? This isn't journalism, Joy. This is a hit job, and everyone watching can see it." The camera operators didn't know where to focus. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to try to intervene or just let this unprecedented meltdown continue. Whoopi finally found her voice. "Okay, both of you need to sit down and lower your voices. This is getting out of hand." But Joy was beyond reason now. "Out of hand? What's out of hand is pretending that mediocrity deserves praise just because it makes money. What's out of hand is giving platforms to people who contribute nothing meaningful to our culture." Sandler's eyes blazed. "Nothing meaningful? You want to know what's meaningful, Joy? I'll tell you what's meaningful. Last month I got a letter from a mother whose son has autism. She told me that my movies are the only thing that makes him laugh, the only thing that brings him pure joy in a world that's often cruel to kids like him. That's meaningful. That letter is worth more than every snarky comment you've ever made on this show." Joy sneered. "Oh, please, spare me the heartwarming anecdotes. One touching letter doesn't excuse decades of lowbrow garbage." "Lowbrow garbage?" Sandler's voice cracked with emotion and fury. "You know what's lowbrow? Sitting here tearing down someone's career for no reason other than your own bitterness. You know what's garbage? Using your position to hurt people instead of lifting them up." The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Joy's face was twisted with rage and something else, something that looked almost like satisfaction at having pushed Sandler to this breaking point. "Hurt people? I'm trying to hold you accountable for polluting our cultural landscape with your juvenile nonsense. Someone has to have standards around here." "Standards?" Sandler threw his hands up in disbelief. "Your standard is cruelty. Your standard is making guests uncomfortable for your own entertainment. You want to talk about polluting the cultural landscape? Look in the mirror, Joy. You're everything that's wrong with media today." The tension in the room was suffocating. Production assistants were signaling frantically from off camera. But the confrontation had taken on a life of its own. Joy leaned across the desk, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. At least I'm not a grown man making millions by acting like a 12-year-old. At least I have some dignity. That was the final straw. Sandler's composure completely shattered, and what came next would be replayed on social media for weeks. Sandler's face went completely red, and when he spoke, his voice shook with a rage that nobody in that studio had ever witnessed before. "Dignity," he roared, his voice echoing through the studio. "You want to lecture me about dignity? You sit here every single day gossiping about people, spreading negativity, tearing down anyone who dares to be successful or happy. That's your idea of dignity? That's your contribution to the world?" Joy tried to interrupt, but Sandler was on a roll now, 30 years of frustration with critics and cynics pouring out all at once. "No, you don't get to talk anymore, Joy. You've had your say. Now it's my turn." His finger pointed directly at her, trembling with emotion. "You know what takes real courage? Getting up every morning and choosing to spread joy instead of misery. Choosing to make people laugh instead of making them feel small. Choosing to build something instead of just tearing things down from the sidelines." The other hosts sat in stunned silence. Sunny looked like she might cry. Sarah Haynes had her mouth hanging open in shock. Whoopi was frantically gesturing to the producers off camera, but they seemed just as paralyzed by the spectacle unfolding. "You think making people laugh is easy?" Sandler continued, his voice cracking with emotion. "You think it's simple to get up in front of millions of people and try to bring some lightness into their lives? Every joke is a risk. Every movie is putting yourself out there to be judged by people like you who have never created anything, never tried to make anyone happy, never put their heart on the line." Joy's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. For the first time in the interview, she seemed genuinely rattled. "Adam, I think you're overreacting here." "Overreacting?" Sandler's laugh was bitter and harsh. "Overreacting? Lady, you spent 20 minutes trying to destroy my career on live television, and now you think I'm overreacting? You want to know what overreacting looks like? What happened next would become legendary in television history." Sandler reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. With shaking hands, he began scrolling through what appeared to be messages or emails. "You want to hear about real people, Joy? People who aren't bitter critics sitting in judgment?" His voice grew stronger as he read. "Here's from Jennifer in Ohio. She says my movies helped her through her divorce. Gave her something to laugh about when she thought she'd never smile again." Joy tried to interrupt. "Adam, this is really not necessary." "Oh, it's absolutely necessary," Sandler shot back. "Here's from Michael in Texas. He says he watches my movies with his elderly father who has dementia, and they're the only thing that still makes the old man laugh." "Still think my work is meaningless garbage, Joy?" The studio audience began to murmur. Some people were actually crying. The camera operators were getting shots of audience members wiping their eyes, completely invested in this raw, emotional moment. Sandler's voice grew louder, more passionate. "Here's from Sarah in Michigan. She's a single mom working 2 jobs, and she says my movies are how she unwinds after 14-hour days. She says they remind her that it's okay to be silly sometimes, that laughter isn't childish, it's necessary." Joy's face had gone pale. She clearly hadn't expected this turn. Hadn't prepared for Sandler to have ammunition of his own. "You sit here in your comfortable chair," Sandler continued, his voice now booming through the studio, "making 6 figures to tell people why they shouldn't enjoy things. But out there in the real world, people are struggling, people are hurting, people need reasons to smile. And if my stupid, juvenile, lowbrow movies can give them that, then I'm proud of every single one of them." The emotion in his voice was raw and genuine. This wasn't acting, this wasn't a performance. This was a man defending not just his career, but his life's mission. Joy finally found her voice again, but it came out smaller than before. "I'm not saying people shouldn't enjoy entertainment, Adam. I'm just saying that as artists, don't we have a responsibility to challenge ourselves, to create something with substance?" Sandler stepped closer to the desk, his eyes blazing. "Substance? You want substance? Let me tell you about substance. Substance is a kid with cancer who laughs at one of my movies and forgets about his pain for 2 hours. Substance is a family sitting together in a theater, sharing joy instead of staring at their phones. Substance is choosing to put positivity into the world instead of cynicism. He paused, collecting himself slightly, but his voice remained strong. You know what lacks substance, Joy? This interview. This attack. This need to tear down someone who's never done anything to hurt you. That's what lacks substance. The studio was dead quiet except for the sound of cameras rolling and someone in the audience quietly sobbing. Even the production crew seemed transfixed by what they were witnessing. Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. Look, Adam. I think we got off on the wrong foot here. Wrong foot? Sandler's voice was incredulous. Joy, you didn't get off on the wrong foot. You came in here with both barrels loaded, ready to take me down for reasons I'll never understand. And you know what? You failed. Because at the end of the day, I know who I am. I know what I've contributed. And I know that when I go home tonight, I'll sleep peacefully knowing that somewhere out there people are laughing because of something I created. He looked directly into the camera, addressing the audience at home. To everyone watching who's ever been told their joy doesn't matter, who's ever been made to feel ashamed for finding happiness in simple things, don't let anyone steal that from you. Life is hard enough without people trying to take away the things that make you smile. Then he turned back to Joy, his voice quiet but firm. And Joy, I hope someday you find whatever it is you're looking for, because this isn't it. Hurting people isn't it. With that, Sandler walked off the set, leaving behind a stunned studio and a host who finally understood she had picked the wrong fight with the wrong person. The camera lingered on Joy's face, capturing a moment of what looked almost like regret before cutting to commercial. The interview would be dissected and analyzed for months afterward, becoming a perfect example of what happens when someone underestimates the power of genuine passion and the danger of unnecessary cruelty. It was a reminder that behind every public figure is a real person with real feelings, and that sometimes, when pushed too far, even the nicest people will fight back. So what did you think of that explosive confrontation? Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against someone who was trying to tear you down? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories like this one.